This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, happy Fantopia Friday, my friends. I am happy to be here live. I was away last week in Minneapolis. I was presenting for Minneapolis MUFON, and I had an absolutely wonderful time. I couldn't believe how warm and receptive all of the people there were, and including all of my friends from MUFON. It was a wonderful experience, and I actually had a 3-hour lecture. I thought I was going to fall into a hole when I got done, but I honestly had so much material I could have kept talking. But I missed you, and I wanted to say I'm so grateful that all of my friends are in chat and people are listening from all over the world. I truly hope that I can present you good people, people that actually research, people that have integrity, that behave ethically, and I hope that we can make a difference because, as you can all sense, there is something brewing. I don't know if it's the eclipse. I don't know if it's the fact that perhaps there is a little bit of disinformation in our field right now, but it is something to be aware of, and we all need to work together and just kind of calm down and remember that the truth sometimes can be muddied by the powers that be or by ego, what have you, but we need to just stay strong and do what is right and look for good people. I am here with someone who knows all about the trickster. In fact, we're going to talk about that right now. My friend who I've been waiting to talk to forever is brilliant. She is interested in anomalies, folklore, social and changes in dynamics, Jungian psychology, parapsychology, psi, UAP, UFOs, high stranges, I mean, you name it. And she is totally on the same page as I am because she understands that there is something more to life, that it is right in front of us. And we need to be aware of it. We need to be, I think, have one foot in reality and keep grounded, but then be open to all of these wonderful and frightening possibilities. My guest tonight is Susan Demeter St. Clair, and she is an author, and she's part of a book called UFOs Reframing the Debate with some of my really good friends and people that I will say I was a little skeptical of because they are a little bit skeptical themselves. But Sue, thank you so much, and I want to thank you for the beautiful necklace that you sent me.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for the beautiful rocks you sent me from Arizona. I treasure them.
Isn't that fun? That was so kind of you to do. And I want to tell the audience I was going to do field research in a very intense, interesting place. And to me, it's like I want to go and just have a bit of protection because we really don't know what we're dealing with. And so Sue sent me a beautiful necklace with stones, and I just treasure that. And I take that everywhere with me.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. It was sent with love and as for protection, and just as a reminder that if things get really strange or weird out there, that you have people that love you and are with you. Because,
I love that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's important. It's important that we stay grounded. And I use stones for that purpose because it can get very intense, especially field work, where if you're putting yourself closer and closer and closer to the phenomena and you're interacting with whatever this is, it can have a really destructuring sort of effect on people. It can play havoc with their emotions and their psyche and even their personal lives. A lot of people can become obsessed or have become obsessed, and their lives have taken all sorts of strange turns. Researchers that have been doing this for a long time. John Keel is one of the researchers that, he knew the material really better than anybody, and he did sort of come out of it with a very strange and almost a paranoid worldview, because he had a lot of negative experiences with all sorts of these strange, high strangeness phenomena, the Mothman, and other strange UFO stuff that began sort of externalizing itself in his outer world with strange phone calls and things of that nature. And I think what I have learned in my own research is that I do take breaks from it often. I will just, as opposed to thinking and contemplating UFOs or talking to UFO experience or that sort of thing, I will go shopping for shoes or whatever,
I want to go shoe shopping with you.
Yeah, absolutely. We will, for sure. But you know what I'm saying, is just doing something that is away from it, that it seems more grounded in reality and normality, and then you can come back to it refreshed and feeling better about the whole thing, because it can be very intense, and I do believe that, yes, it seems to sort of be a side effect or an effect of getting closer. It can have quite a destructuring effect, and it can affect interpersonal relationships as well. You can hear of people that have been very close, or people that have formed groups, and then, they are out there for a while and they're doing good stuff, and then all of a sudden there's an implosion, and nobody even really knows why. But just egos become engaged, and other strange things happen, and feelings become hurt. And I think that it is something to just be aware of, that we are dealing with something that's very elusive, and it seems to be very anti-structural. And therefore, it's important to just remember that, and to ground ourselves in this reality, and just take breaks from it. Because
do you think all of this is malevolent? I mean, do you think that there is some sort of benevolent aspect to this that's guiding us or protecting us?
I don't know what. I sometimes it seems to display itself really malevolently. I mean, there are people out there that are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. No matter what you want to believe the phenomena is or what they experience, there are people that have seemingly been taken somewhere and harmed against their will, in some cases tortured sexually. That is very malevolent. That's evil. That's horrible. But on the same note, you also have other people who have been healed miraculously. They've been very sick. There was a case, I think, that Jacques Vallée had, a famous case of Mr. X that Jacques Vallée had followed in France, of a doctor who was healed by his experiences, like physically from ailment, or I think it was a burn or something of that nature. But I mean, there are other people who have really found a strong spirituality and feeling towards the universe and cosmos, and they view their experiences as very positive. So I don't know, like, why for some people it's just, they might have one experience and it's strange and that's it. And then others have had these horrendous or horrific experiences, and then yet others have had very positive and life-affirming sort of experiences. So I don't know why that is. I don't know. I hate to try and put an agenda on anything.
Right, absolutely.
Because if it is an alien other, we don't know. We're putting our own filters and our own lenses, and we're trying to use a logic that coming from our own space, but we have really no idea what this is or why it is a certain way. Sometimes culture seems to play a role in how things sort of display themselves. I find it interesting, for instance, that there was a parallel between poltergeists in Brazil being very violent. People have died, supposedly, from poltergeist-like activity that has occurred there. And as well, there has been some very violent sort of UFO experiences as well, where people have have died because of their UFO experiences. And the only common denominator seemingly between these, or thread, is culture and the fact that they were in this same country. Where in other places it may be different. And in different cultures it does seem to display differently as well. So I do think that whatever is going on, we also put our own sort of filters and lenses and thoughts and ideas and culture onto it. And that's how we tend to experience things. For instance, in the Muslim culture, their cosmology is quite different. So the way they experience the jinn or poltergeist activity is quite different than people would, coming from a more Western sort of cultural background. For them, they see these things as you know, they're normal. So they might have a kind of crazy experience, but they don't see it as like horrifying as, say, someone that might view these things as like more demonic or you know, depending upon their own sort of ideas and beliefs. It might be scary, or it might not be so scary. It might be more, well, okay, this is normal. This happens. So that's my view on it.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, I mean, I've had a lot of paranormal experiences in my life, and I look at some of the ghost shows, or, you know, I mean, I listen to other people's paranormal experiences and the way that they view the same thing that happened to me, and they view it as frightening and demonic. And I think, oh, so I mean, that makes perfect sense that we all have these different filters, and we're brought up with these belief systems to believe that if a doorknob turns or something flies off a shelf, that's demonic. You know, but it's also fascinating, and it's so multi-layered and deep. And in my opinion, there's a connection between all of this. And that's why I don't understand in ufology why we put things in a box, because I think that's really a detriment to the study, the research.
I think that for some people it's comforting to put things in a box. I mean, it makes sense to them logically that, okay, this is this and this is how it's going to be. You know, it's the same with like Hynek's classification system, which I think really needs to be expanded, or we need to do something else as opposed to trying to put these, you know, shapes and things into boxes and just focus on that. Sure, like it needs to be focused more, I think, on people. I mean, we've been doing the idea of like following what is going on as far as describing spaceships and looking at weather patterns and trying to debunk, and sometimes we can debunk and sometimes we can't, and just going along that sort of nuts and bolts route. And really, after 70 years, it hasn't gotten us anywhere, has it?
Oh, amen. I mean, yeah. Absolutely. And that's what I was saying at the lecture at Minnesota MUFON. It's like, what progress have we made? Nothing.
Nothing. Because
we're not willing to step back and look at the larger picture and kind of, you know, let down some of our boundaries and belief systems. And I think we really need to reframe, you know, to this whole subject. And I think we need to have new leadership, perhaps, that can push us in a different direction, because what we are utilizing, especially with regard to large organizations where they're still sitting behind computer screens and dismissing a case or saying it's an unknown and then doing nothing with it. I mean, I think this is a real broken system.
It is a broken system, and I do believe that there is a reason why larger institutions tend to fail continuously with this. It's not just MUFON; it was other organizations before MUFON. And then I don't want to pick on MUFON too much.
No, I don't either. I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah. There are
amazing people.
Yeah, there are a lot of good people at the grassroots level in certain, you know, the like states and things. But then the hierarchy and the structure doesn't seem to be taking us anywhere either. But what I was going to say is that I think what we need to do, because I do believe there is a place for the nuts and bolts stuff too, for sure, is just concentrate on doing our own thing. You know, who cares what other people are doing? If you can put together a group of like-minded people, or even just be yourself, just work on your own stuff. And if you want to share that stuff, you could share it. If you don't want to share it, then that's fine too. But realize this is an extremely complex phenomena, however you want to look at it. And I don't think we're ever going to have any one perfect answer. Whatever this thing is, other than, in my mind, the only true thing that we have, the only one piece of evidence that we have is human beings have been describing similar experiences since the beginning of recorded history. That's it. That's all we can say for 100% certain people, and it's all over cultures. It doesn't matter socioeconomic circumstances. People have these experiences, and for them they are very real. Like I had mentioned before, some people suffer, post-traumatic stress disorder from their experiences with these little beings and ships and whatnots. But I think it's important to just do our own thing, realize we'll probably never answer the question to 100% satisfaction of everyone, and just kind of try and be respectful of other people, and just realize that, we're coming at it from different belief systems as well, and different experiences. Obviously someone who's going to have a malevolent experience is not going to view this the same way as someone who's had this positive, loving sort of space brother experience. So we just have to kind of be respectful of each other and respectful of each other's views, and realize that in some cases, we're not going to have answers, and we're not going to really change people's minds. A hardcore skeptic has a certain view of the universe, a certain view of their world. They're very content in that. There are some believers who are waiting for disclosure, that they are convinced of their correctness, that this is going to happen. And you know what? More power to them. That's my view. I don't really get into arguments with people anymore online, or try to change people's minds. I kind of try to put out what I'm doing and let people take from it what they want. And I do the same with other people's stuff. Honestly, over the years, I've changed my mind on multiple issues with this type of research and study.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's important to say. You get people in there that are just so set in their ways, and they won't ever, I don't know. It's a fascinating study on human behavior.
Yes.
Honestly, you just sit back and watch. But I will say that it's been interesting for me to come into this field kind of as a newbie, and to watch the dysfunction that I think has been at play for a long time. And I don't know whether that's because we haven't had any way to kind of standardize the field, or it's the fact that we're all exposed to something, this high strangeness. I don't know what it is, but it seems like there should be a shift if we are going to collectively come together and maybe do good work, or at least create an environment of a safe space.
I really think that would be wonderful if it would be possible, but I do have my doubts, in the sense that people have very strong beliefs, and people don't want their beliefs really challenged. They don't, and in general they don't anyway. Some people are open to having their ideas and thoughts muddled with, but for some of these people, they have such a strong belief that it's not going to change. And I've speculated with other people that perhaps that is part of the greater experience itself, because you have two very rigid mindsets. Either you have these people who think it's all nothing, and people are crazy, and they try and rationalize, sometimes to the point of crazy themselves. They'll take these UFO cases and they'll stick on, or they'll tack on it's obviously it's this, explanation. It's Venus, and it doesn't matter what time of day it is, or whether it's overcast and cloudy and Venus is not even visible. To them, it's Venus, and anyone who says differently is crazy, obviously. And then there's the others who absolutely believe the ET narrative, that these are aliens. Sometimes they think that, the aliens are coming down, and any minute now the government's going to tell us everything we want to hear, and we're going to get free energy and all this great stuff. And people that have that strong sense of belief, they are not going to change their minds. And they, in some ways, I think, are providing a structure system within this narrative, where this anti-structure seems to be sort of operating all around it anyway. And we still don't know what it is. It's still very elusive,
So do you think that we can can we make any progress, or are we all just spinning in the wind?
I think that progress can be made, but I think that people have to realize it's going to take many different approaches coming together. And by that, I mean the hard sciences, mixed in with the humanities, soft scientists. I want to see it more explored through art, through music, philosophy and religion. All these things are going to come together. And maybe through that, we'll slowly start chipping away at it. But it's going to take that. I don't think there's just one perfect discipline. I am exploring the phenomena through some of my own spiritual beliefs and through magic. I have been experimenting with that. And I know for some people, they're going to think that's really not, that's kind of crazy, or that's way out of my way of wanting to deal with things. But you know what? That's fine. I'll present things when I feel I'm ready to, and they can go on and do what they're doing. And maybe at that point, when we're all sort of saying, okay, you know what, we're doing our own thing, and we'll just present ideas when we can, and you can take from it what you want, or you can not take from it you want, then maybe at that point we'll start chipping away at it and making little bits of progress. But I honestly believe that it is one step ahead of us. I think it's elusive, and I don't really think whatever it is doesn't really want to be discovered.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I think it's interesting because to me, when I was, in high school and different things, I've always been attracted to, kind of the quote unquote, the new agey, looking at the power of manifesting, looking at magic and all of these things. And I think that there's so much there, and there's so much that we can, that we need to open our minds to, and you're doing that. But, if you've got a nuts and bolts scientist, or an investigator, let me rephrase that, they might not quite be open to those things. And I don't know. I just think we're all on our own path. Yes, some are, but, and I have to say that I think, the government, there's a certain faction that was involved with the government that took magic and the dark arts and all of these things very seriously. So there's something there.
Of course they did. Not only that, but UFOs and parapsychology as well. We can say that probably all of the UFO groups that have ever existed. I know George Hansen has given evidence for that within his book, The Trickster and the Paranormal. All of the UFO groups have been at one time infiltrated by intelligence services, and for why, who knows? Okay, I don't pretend to know, but it is true, and but also the American Society of Psychical Research as well. So of course they've been interested in these sorts of things. I personally try to not get too involved in that because I would become really paranoid. I'm going to be honest. And I don't know if we'll ever get a straight answer about this. I don't know what they know more than we do. I would rather concentrate myself personally on the people who are just average people, average citizens out there who are having these really exceptional experiences. Because to me, the most people out there are really being sincere. They're telling exactly what they've experienced. They're not stupid people. Like, one thing that gets me mad is when people will say, oh, that person they obviously, they're mistaking an aircraft. Sometimes people mistake aircrafts. But in this day and age, when we've had planes for more than 100 years, most people know when they look up in the sky if they're seeing an airplane or not. They know the difference between that and when they're describing something that's like this giant cigar-shaped thing with portholes or what have you. They know, even with military aircraft. A lot of people now, especially ones that are living close to military bases, they know what military aircraft look like.
Absolutely.
You have to give credit to people, like that they're not all stupid or they're just mistaking things, or they're seeing things that aren't really there. I think for the most part, people are absolutely describing exactly what they're seeing. Now, what that is, who knows? But that's my take on it anyway.
I like your take, and I knew I was going to love talking to you. I am Erica Lukes, and I'm here with the beautiful, intelligent Susan Demeter St. Clair, and you can find her. Go to our website, susanstclair.com. We're going to have much more when we get back from break. Thanks for sticking around. I'm Erica Lukes. We'll catch you on the other side of the break.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this. Bowl for Life is a non-profit organization founded in 2013 by Chuck Gardner with one simple goal: to grow the sport of bowling worldwide. Over the years, Bowl for Life has given out thousands of dollars in scholarships to youth bowlers around the world. Our focus is to nurture integrity, honesty, professionalism, as well as respect into bowlers both young and old. You can help us by going to bowlforlife.com. Even the smallest donation goes a long way to breaking down the barriers and helping us assist people of all ages to improve their skills as well as knowledge of the game. Bowl for Life is happy to be partnered with other great organizations like the Youth Education Services Fund, as well as the United States Bowling Congress, with many spectacular integrated events planned in the near future. To learn more, go to bowlforlife.com. That's bowlforlife.com.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
I'm jumping in with my clothes on.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
Kim Jong-un.
Did you see the thing on Facebook the other day where he was sitting at a desk with all these people around him, and he just was laughing, and he looked up and says, "Only kidding, only kidding."
Of course.
That's the thing. He has to clarify that he's kidding.
Yeah, poke the bear. This guy will hit the button.
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific on the KCOR.
Hello? I can't hear you, but you can hear me, right?
Hang on, I want to make sure I understand. So a non-citizen can go over to a hospital and walk in and get emergency treatment. That never happens here.
What happens? Jobs are created. Guess what happens? The economy grows. Then you have more people paying taxes. Do they not understand?
I don't want to hear any more about Islam. I don't want to hear one more word about Islam. Take your religion and shove it up your behind. I'm sick of you.
Fatigued by the identical mind-numbing viewpoints up and down the dial?
You fat pig who lies on his back all day, demanding that everybody else subsidize them. What do you do, jerk? All right.
Well, listen to the master of provocative insight, Dwight Lilly, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Whether it's local or national news, Dwight has his finger on the pulse of the nation.
So now you've got a case where Cliven Bundy, in an interview first broke in the New York Times, his comments are beyond repugnant to me. They are beyond despicable to me. They are beyond ignorant to me.
The Dwight Lilly Show, never restrained and always opinioned. Talk without the fluff.
The world is about to change forever.
Get your weekly dose of truth every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern, only on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
America's favorite radio station just keeps getting better.
Hello, people. Aaron Hunter here, host of the show Real Paranormal Activity, where we tell the true stories of the paranormal from people like you. We also interview authors, mediums, psychics, and investigators as we dive headfirst into the murky waters of the paranormal. We discuss subject matter such as orbs, shadow people, paganism, the occult, and the demonic. Join me on Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, here at KCOR Digital Radio Network.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday, my friends. I am here on the best, most respectful internet radio station on the planet. Again, I always want to give props to Tina Marie, who is the station owner, manager, and my producer. I feel very grateful to be working with such a strong woman who cares about programming and who also cares about the content that is being presented on her station. I think that we are really, truly at a pivotal time in this, and I think lots of unethical behavior and really nasty behavior, sexism, all of this stuff is coming to the forefront, and I hope that we have the ability to look at that and make good choices and to move forward in a positive direction. I think we can all do that. I want to say that you can find me on Facebook at ufoclassified.com and then go to my website, ufoclassified.com. Well, let me just get that right. So it's the Facebook UFO Classified, and then, yeah, you've got what I mean. It's been one of those nights. I'm telling you, that trickster is just super naughty, but, oh, Lord have mercy. Mama needs to, like a margarita or something. I'm going to lock myself in the closet. I think especially, before the eclipse, because something's going to happen. But my beautiful guest tonight is Susan Demeter St. Clair, and she is, I want to tell you, because I didn't get a chance, there was so much stuff going on, I didn't get a chance to read her bio. She is a professional research assistant, author, editor, a psi experimenter, and her research interests include individual and institutional responses to anomalies and exceptional human experiences and how they interact and enact change within groups and large institutions such as the military. So I will read a little bit more about that, and I'll be posting the rest of her bio, but she has done extensive research, and I think this is really, really cool. So welcome back, and you are such a love for rolling with the trickster tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and it kind of reinforces my own ideas that there is this sort of trickster-like archetype that is really a large part of the entire UFO experience and the UFO community as well.
You gotta love it.
Yeah, well, it keeps things interesting. It does. And sometimes it's favorable, and sometimes it's not so favorable. I don't know why that is. But I do believe that it is something that I like to look at the UFO experience through those lenses of archetypes and definitely the trickster. I certainly wasn't the first. The first time I actually read about this type of approach was with George Hansen, and I really, really want to plug his book, which was first put out in 2001, and it's called The Trickster and the Paranormal. And it's very eye-opening in its approach through sociology and anthropology and skepticism and magic and all these different things that sort of culminate in these ideas of what not only just UFOs, but all these kind of strange mysteries and psi experiences and things of that nature, and how they seem to display themselves to people. And it's something that I'm working on. Jeff Ritzman, I'm going to plug his blog if that's okay.
Absolutely. He's been on the show before, and I really respect his work. He is amazing.
Yeah, the Numinous Den. Go read that. Go start at the beginning, because he really takes these complex ideas and he makes them very understandable for people, very interesting, and you can sort of follow along as to these types of ideas towards what we may be dealing with. And again, they're ideas. They're just something different. They're just maybe not necessarily a newer way of looking at things, but expanding on some of the ideas that were put forward by people like Jacques Vallée, and even Hynek himself, who later on kind of was accepting more of a paranormal explanation towards some of this UFO phenomena, and George Hansen for sure. I think we need to explore different ideas, and I think we need to expand on ideas that were sort of maybe left to the wayside, but were really good, and need to be maybe reincorporated into the larger way of dealing with or looking at these experiences that people have.
And I wanted to say that when we started talking, you mentioned George Hansen, and so he has been on my radar, and I have that book that you mentioned, and I think it is really pivotal. I would love to get him on the show sometime, and I would actually love to have both of you on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Get Jeff on, too. It would be great.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun?
We would have a lot of fun with that. We could do like a whole sort of like round table trickster kind of liminality and looking at these anomalies in a different way. And maybe get people thinking, and people that are listening in, maybe it'll spark something new for them too, and they might expand on it, and then we're just going down a whole new path, right?
Wouldn't that be cool? And I have to say, I saw George Hansen, Tim Beckley, who has been in this field for a long, long time and has a show on KCOR on Thursday nights, but he did a really great interview with George Hansen, and you can see it on YouTube, and that was just, to me, just mind-blowing. And we don't hear enough from people like that have done that groundbreaking research. And I wish we could kind of push more of that into the field. We need that.
Yeah, and also like from completely different perspectives. There was some really great ideas that were put forward by the author of the blog Rune Soup, which is Gordon White. I think that he would be an interesting guest for you, and he talks about UFOs. These are just people that are coming at it from completely different sorts of perspectives and ideas, and I think that's what we need, because again, when you were saying what's going to move things forward, I think it's realizing that it's going to take a whole bunch of different types of people coming together and respectfully.
Absolutely. And that's challenging. And I've heard you talk about Mr. X, and I want to know, I mean, I can sense that, and correct me, tell me how you feel about this, but that there's something going on right now in the community, and it is very, obviously it's dividing a lot of people, or it's exposing a lot of people, or that something is bubbling. And I want to talk a little bit about this and the infiltration and what you think and what you've seen in your time in the field.
Well, I would say, as far as the whole Mr. X thing goes, which I did the YouTube recording, and I did an article on it. I don't know. It's almost as if ever so often the UFO community has to go through this. It happens with individuals, like I had said before. People tend to have these really profound and crazy experiences at moments in their lives that are very liminal, or at points of change, or when they're in flux. And it has a very destructuring sort of effect on people. Or they could even be destructuring prior to the UFO, and then it just, bam, it happens. In the case of the larger community, this seems to happen every so often. You have this whole shaking down or tearing down of, and in this case, you've seen what's happened with MUFON, right at the hierarchy of this organization. And I speculate that this has to do with the phenomena itself, and that this could be because people get closer to it, like an artifact or an after effect of being too close, or concentrating it on it too much. I mean, people become very paranoid, they become very anxiety ridden, and it's something that seems to happen. And that's why I think it's important moving forward for people to just, realize you're not going to change anybody else's mind. Concentrate on what you feel is important to what you're doing. If it's the nuts and bolts stuff, then do it. Do it, and do it really well. And if you feel like presenting it to people, present it to people. And I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to do what I want and what makes me happy with it. And if I can write something, or if I can put something out there that inspires you or triggers you, that's really good. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. But that is what I think is going on with the whole Mr. X thing. I think it seems to be almost like I don't know if it's proximity, but it certainly seems that way on the individual level. And it does happen within the greater UFO community, where you have these people that are like, they're at the top of their celebrity or fame or whatever you want to have it, and then all of a sudden, you find out they're a hoaxer, or something terrible happens, or they seem to fall off a deep end or something, and then it all changes around, and then new people emerge, and it seems to be part of the whole UFO sort of extended experience, because it's certainly not. You can't say it's the ships or whatever it is that people are seeing, but it is the subject itself is very destructive in some sense. It can be.
It can be. And I mean, I think that when each of us has a personal experience, and I know for me, I mean, you dive into this head first, and it can be incredibly difficult for people you love to try to sit back and say, where did my wife go? Or, where did my mother or sister go? Because this person is so obsessed with this. And, you mentioned just taking time to decompress and to get away from the subject completely, which is important. And it's also, for me, I know that's a hard thing to do, because I feel so energized by this, and I'm so intrigued, and I just want to talk to everyone I can and do whatever I can and get this out there. But this is such a trip, and it shakes your foundation.
Sure, and I understand that, because I also go through points of that where I get very energized. And I want to do a lot of stuff. And at the moment, I am very optimistic. I'm very energized about what I'm doing. I'm very energized by Robbie's book, and the other essayists. And I'm going to tell you right now, some of us are skeptics. Some of us are far more into different kind of believers. And some of us are experienced, some of us are not. We're all coming at this from slightly different perspectives, which I think makes the book really rich, because we're not all in lockstep. And it's not your typical kind of UFO book, which is just presenting one sort of idea or one sort of side to things. And I'm energized now, but I do know from experience over the years is that it's just obsession can be a problem. So it is important to just kind of take some time away from it, even if it's just take a day to yourself. Go do something fun that's not related, and then come back with maybe fresher, newer kind of feelings, or perspective towards it. That's the only thing I suggest, because there are people that become so obsessed that they destroy their entire lives. They end up divorced, they end up losing their homes, they end up losing their jobs, and it's not healthy. It's not a good environment. And then you have all these, sometimes these very strange people that are also part of this greater community that can be very disruptive. So it's good to just take breaks and kind of keep it real and be authentic to yourself and go from there. And just and be respectful to other people, like, no, we can't all be in lockstep. We'll never make progress that way if we all agree that it's one thing. But, that's my thoughts anyway, is that it's important to just sort of take breaks away from it, because it can be very intense and it does affect people's psyches.
It does. And it's interesting when I have gone into different places where, doing field research. I mean, there is something, and maybe I'm creating this in my mind. I don't think I am, but there's something that is, you go through this process when you're in a place that is a window area or a portal, vortex, whatever we're going to call it. But it really does have an emotional effect on you. And it affects, I think, drains you physically. I mean, there are many things that kind of manifest as a result of being in some of these areas of high strangeness. What have you experienced when you've been out doing research?
Oh, far too much.
What would I hear?
All sorts of kind of things. And these hotspots tend to be a mixed bag of misidentified stuff and genuine anomalies and hoaxes. So you tend to experience the gamut of things.
Do you feel that, because you're so in tune with the energetic aspect of things, I mean, is there a way that people can kind of guard themselves or guard their energy, or just kind of come into this with a perspective where they're going to be able to keep one foot in reality and but still experience what's going on?
I think whatever works for the individual, I support that. Some people like to say prayers of protection for themselves, and I think that's wonderful, and I support that. Other people find grounding in more pursuits of rationalism or debunking. I know that when I was more in that sort of psychopian mode, and I was part of a skeptics organization, and I was doing a lot of debunking, there is a comfort in that, because you feel it feels right. It feels better. Like, who wants all this crazy, weird stuff, right? So, I mean, for some people, they find sort of protection in that sort of mode of thinking that they are going to try and rationalize. For me, that stopped working when I saw a large UFO at close range, and then I just felt I can't, like, even though these were some wonderful people in the skeptical movement that I had, gotten to know, but I could not follow that mindset anymore after the experience. So I try to keep it real by, I incorporate my own spirituality. I do ground myself. I do take breaks from it ever so often. And of course, I also employ critical thinking skills. I mean, some things can be debunked, so I think it's good to take that sort of multi-pronged approach to it, and just be open to the idea that, yes, people are experiencing these things. We really don't know what it is, not 100%. People believe they know, and that's fine, but we don't really. And just realize that, yes, some things can be debunked. So, it's good to keep that open but critical thinking employed, and then some people are so complex too, like with the witnesses. Sometimes you can have someone, and this is true of poltergeist cases as well. The parapsychologists have been noting this for over 50 years or more, that sometimes you can have people that are UFO experiencers, and some of the stuff, is really out there and is probably anomalous. And then as time goes by, they might have gained some fame or something, so they might feel a need to perform a little, or the stories become exaggerated, or some things then become a little not true, or they're caught hoaxing. So people themselves are complex. Human beings are as complex as the phenomena they're experiencing. So you got to just keep that all in mind.
Do you think that some of the researchers that got into this, as they get, a little bit further down in their career path, that they have to kind of reinvent things and make up stories to keep themselves relevant? I mean, I would assume that would be the same type of thing.
Yes, absolutely, that is true. There are some, and there's some good examples, and I don't want to name names, but probably people listening in are going to pick up on some of them. That yes, of course, that's true. But then again, you have to think, well, maybe some of what happened originally was the truth, and then they're feeling that need to perform, especially if this is their living. They're making money doing this. And it's the same with some of the psychic people that are out there, the professional psychics. I like to point out to people like Sylvia Brown, who probably did have some psychic ability, but overall, I think she was also very much an entertainer and a performer. I think the same thing with Uri Geller. I think he performed some really interesting things in front of scientists who he convinced he had some psychic ability. And I do believe he has some, but nobody can be on all the time. And it's the same sort of thing with the UFO people, especially the ones that the more famous they get and become, the more need to, again, perform or have that really brilliant story. So you have to be able to weed through the wheat and the chaff to kind of, find what might be genuine in there and what might be something else.
And that's so interesting because I look at kind of what's taking place in the field now, and there some pretty fantastic stories out there, and it's sad to me that there's so many good people that are really, really looking for answers. They're looking for comfort because of their personal experiences have been so profound and so life-changing, and then they turn to the UFO community or different YouTube channels or different channels and they get kind of full of stuff, even though you can't really vet sources, and they're taken down this rabbit hole that, who knows if it's true. But I think that's such a disservice to have those who kind of prey upon the community, perhaps for, egocentric purposes, perhaps because it's a disinformation campaign, or perhaps it's just a way to make money and to capitalize on others' experiences. But to me, it's just, that really breaks my heart.
It does, and I understand where you're coming from. Many years ago now, I was doing a show called Strange Days, Indeed, which was out of Toronto with my friend, the late Errol Bruce Snapp, and I sort of went on air and I said, is there anyone out there that's a professional, psychiatrist or counselor or someone who would be willing to talk to people? There was a psychiatrist by the name of Dr. David Gottlieb in Toronto who did deal with some of the experiencers, and he, as far as I know, still kind of keeps an eye on things in the field, but doesn't work with abductees anymore. I think the important thing for people is if they are struggling, if they're having a hard time coping, that they seek help outside of the UFO community. There is a psychologist here in Toronto that I do work with who is covered by our medical insurance, who is willing to talk to people and is without any kind of judgment. And I think that's what the problem is. People are afraid to come to other people outside of the community and tell their stories. So that's why they turn to the YouTubes and that.
Lord, it's called the mute button. See, I'm so tired. America Lux will be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting Broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified.
UFO classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday. I hope you all are having a great week, and I hope you have wonderful plans for the eclipse. We're going to have to keep in touch on Facebook and figure out where we're going, send pictures. This is going to be an interesting event, and I have been reading that clearly the reptiles will be coming out to play, so oh, Lord, have mercy. Lots of good stuff going on, but I definitely think there could be some funky energy going on. I think there already is, but my guest tonight is so remarkable. I feel blessed and honored to have her here. Sue Demeter St. Clair. You can find her at susanstclair.com. She is in a new book. She wrote an essay that is absolutely brilliant with Lauren Cutts, Micah Hanks, Miles Lewis, Red Pill Junkie, Chris Witowski, Ryan Sprague, some of my favorite people in the field, and Greg Bishop. I just have to give a shout. And Mike McClelland. I mean, seriously, everybody that wrote for this book, I have a tremendous amount of respect for. And I think UFOs Reframing the Debate is something that was edited by Robbie Graham, but you guys need to get this and read it because it poses some very important questions. And it was interesting, Sue, and you've got to tell me, more about this, but I had heard from Greg that after Robbie was on Coast to Coast that there were some pretty hateful responses to this book.
Well, yeah, and that was something that we kind of expected because people are very much set in their sort of minds. Like some people are open to different things, but I find that is rare with UFOs. Either people tend to think it's nothing and that people are all experiencing mundane things and they're misinterpreting and that it's nothing, or they tend to really believe this is extraterrestrial, and they really, really, really believe that. And the point of the book, like none of the essayists are saying that the ETH is wrong because we don't know, but we're all coming from this from different perspectives, and from the very skeptical to the absolute believer. But we're sort of kind of saying, it's been 70 years of extraterrestrial hypothesis, and that has gotten us nowhere. Like, it has not advanced us at all. We still don't know what this is. And both sides are so rigid, they don't really want to see anything else. So of course, people are going to hate on the book. But some people. But other people, they're probably going to love parts of the book. Parts of it is going to resonate with them. If they're more skeptical leaning, then the more skeptical essays will be for them. And Chris Witowski wrote a brilliant essay on how ufology has become just this absolute religion, and it's sort of like a real slap in the face to this. And then there's others that are arguing for different things. Smalls Lewis I love his essay, and he talks about how UFOs and folklore have been weaponized. I'm arguing for high strangeness, and how I think we need to start looking at UFOs more with a parapsychological lens, because a lot of these UFO cases, they tend to have aspects that would be maybe suited more to parapsychology. And we have to look at the witnesses and what the witnesses were doing, and perhaps more of the symbolic aspects of the UFOs themselves. So it's really it's a great book in that sense that it's just giving out all sorts of ideas. Nobody pretends that they know exactly what UFOs are, but just let's get away from the excuse me. Let's get away from the ETH and the idea that it's just all nothing. And explore new things. Sorry about that. I should have hit my mute button. Yeah.
After tonight and the kind of, interference we've had, are you kidding me? That's nothing. But I mean, I definitely, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And the more I delve into this, the more I absolutely think that for us to keep pushing the extraterrestrial hypothesis, the more we're turning away from what's right in front of us. And I think that is, I think we need to step back a little bit. And I wonder, too, when I look at some of the things that are taking place in the field and the fact that we're going out here to the secret space program, or we're going here and there and everywhere, but looking right in front of our faces, why are we doing that? I mean, we need to stay focused on, in my opinion, on what's taking place here.
Well, yes. I mean, certainly it's a terrestrial problem. I mean, it's happening here on Earth to human beings. So whatever is happening is happening here. So perhaps if it's an alien other, we should be looking for the aliens right here. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I mean, people are not experiencing this way out in outer space because we're not there. And, astronomers are not reporting things that, that they're seeing these things way out into deep space, but it is happening here. And I think it has a lot to do more with humanity and consciousness. Perhaps consciousness is interplaying with some alien other. I'm going to just plug another book if that's okay.
Yes.
From a consciousness perspective, Massimo Teodoranti, please read his book, The Hyperspace of Consciousness. It will blow your mind. And I mean, he takes different hypotheses that compete with each other within the book and explores consciousness as well as the UFO problem. So, and there's a hard scientist that is doing that. So, I'm pretty sure that everybody, if they're willing to just open their mind a little bit and just explore different ideas, if you're not truly rigid and you're not married to your idea as your faith, then you should be able to explore other ideas. And if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. But maybe it'll spark something new. So I think that's what we're doing with reframing the UFO debate, too, is we're just trying to spark other people's ideas and get them to riff off our essays and find maybe new, better questions, which we need.
We absolutely need that. And I enjoyed that. And I will tell you that becoming friends with Greg Bishop has been really one of the greatest things that has happened to me in the UFO world lately, because I mean, honestly, I just think he is a good human being, and he's so smart, and he has such a logical but open-minded. He's got a very different approach, and he's a brilliant author, and Jeff Ritzmann and some of these people that when I first got into this field, I wouldn't have necessarily been drawn to. And the people that I was drawn to, when I started, are people that I have absolutely no respect for now. So it's interesting how these things shift. But there are good people, like, a lot of the people that contributed essays to reframing the debate that are, I believe, really important. And it's just that communication between all of us.
Yes. And the fact that, there are many people, there are many good people, and a lot of the good people I find are really they're just doing their own thing. They're exploring and they're investigating and they're writing, and they're really not seeking anything other than to perhaps maybe enlighten themselves and other people. And there are a lot of good people out there. It's just they're not the ones who are making all the noise in the field, so you don't really get to see them too much, But I think that reframing the debate brings some of us together.
I think so too. And I love the fact that you have looked into and you've researched parapsychology, because to me, all of these things are connected, and we can learn a lot from looking at all of this. And when I first had experiences, I mean, they were, I guess you would say, kind of a parasite. I mean, this was something I was having ghost experiences. I was having all sorts of different things, paranormal experiences. And the more I learn about this, the more I wonder, I believe that they're connected. But tell us a little bit about that and how we can look at parapsychology and utilize all of the skills that you learn by looking at this discipline and the study and move that into the UFO realm.
Well, in one sense, it's the devil's in the details. It's in these really high strange cases where people are having things that lend themselves more to parapsychology, such as poltergeist-like activity. Things are being moved about, or there's strange noises, or there's telepathy, or disembodied voices, or other sorts of strange interactions with these sorts of beings that are presumably the pilots of these ships, or whatever they truly are. I personally don't believe they're ships at all, but that's another topic. But in those cases, parapsychology can play a role. There is a case that I discuss in my essay that happened in Woodstock, New York, where a young couple had rented a cabin, and they moved in, and soon after they started seeing these lights in the sky in the surrounding field in this rural area. And when they went out to investigate, there was like a little burned area in the field, like what I guess back then they were considered saucer nests, and now we'd consider them maybe a simple crop circle. And so that's very interesting. That's a very UFO kind of thing. But then shortly thereafter, in this house they were living in, this little cabin, they started hearing raps on the wall, like knocks, that they could not find a source for. Then they started hearing voices that were disembodied, and they would hear heavy footsteps walking inside this cabin. And then again, more of these light balls. So reading the case, and the case was actually investigated by one of the few parapsychologists who did look at UFOs and ghostly stuff, and that was Scott Rogo. And he wrote a brilliant book called Haunted Skies, for anyone who wants to explore the idea of poltergeists and parapsychology and UFOs. And I think that's been reprinted recently by Anomalist for people that are into that. But anyway, I can describe that case to you, and in one sense it's a UFO case, in another sense it's a poltergeist case, but in my opinion it's both. It's one and the same, but it's both.
That's so, and I'm going to get that book actually, but yeah. I think of Dr. Barry Taff. Yeah. And his work, UFOs above, Ghosts Below, or Ghosts Below UFO. I mean, it's like, I love that book. And I remember having an hour-long conversation with him, and it was just mind-blowing and fascinating. And to me, I didn't understand why people couldn't look at the connections.
I think because some people want, there's this mindset that they feel they know what it is, that it is an extraterrestrial visiting, and maybe it is. I don't know. I can't really debunk it. I can't say it's not. But they so want that, and they so want this described by science, that they want it completely divorced from all this other stuff. To them, this other stuff is too far out there. And that I guess maybe because we've now grown up with sci-fi and Star Trek and all this, the idea of aliens is not that far out there. Most people believe we're not alone in the universe. So that is a good explanation for UFOs for them. But when you start bringing in this other stuff, well, that seems to undermine the credibility. That makes it strange. That makes it, that enters the ridicule factor for a lot of people. So they would rather sweep it under the rug, like it's not even occurring. And even the witnesses know this. Like I said, I can't tell you how many times I've gone out and talked to someone, and they'll give me their UFO story, but then when I'm sitting down with them in person, they will give me some detail that they know sounds crazy. And they'll say, and they'll preface it that way. I know this really sounds crazy, but I should tell you this also happened. And often that is what is missed by some of the more nuts and bolts people. They don't want to explore that. So for them, it doesn't work. And they would rather not deal with it because they feel it creates some sort of, I guess, it like I said, it undermines credibility. They don't want that. They want UFOs to be taken seriously by mainstream science. And personally, that's not bringing us any closer to the phenomena itself, in my opinion.
Well, it's not, but I mean, I think it's interesting because when you look at people like Jacques Vallée and, the people that he has worked with over his career, I think that he would be the first to say that we need to look at everything. And so it really is, in my opinion, some of the people who are like myself, who they're not scientists, but people who are coming into this and have this mindset that this is what we need to do, but that's not really what some of these progressive scientists are doing. They're looking at all of it. And so do we need to kind of get over that? And I honestly think in the United States that we're much worse about that than you are in other countries.
Potentially so. But, I would also caution that Jacques Vallée is American and has been since the early 60s. So I think he truly identifies himself as a Californian.
Right, absolutely. But, I mean, I think that, when you look at the UFO culture in America, it is very nuts and bolts. And you're not looking, it is, you must separate everything. Everything's in a box. And there hasn't been a lot of progression made.
Sure.
Whereas as you go over to Norway or you go over to Italy or some of these other places, you're looking at all of this and you're taking a much more progressive approach.
Sure. I would say that that in Europe and even in parapsychological terms, Europeans tend to be far more progressive and open and than the standard North American. But I mean, there's always going to be exceptions. Like a lot of the people that have written for the book, the Reframing the Debate book, are American. So there is that movement there too. It's just sort of slowly chipping away at it and saying, you know what, let's all do our own thing, but at the same time, let's try exploring new ideas and new avenues, and let's see if that might produce some better questions for us. And I think that is slowly happening in the United States. And I think even those people that might want to take a nuts and bolts approach, they can maybe encompass what they're doing by, say, not just focusing on the actual experience, but also taking the time to maybe focus on the experience as well, the person, and what they're doing and what's happening with them, and letting them know that they can come to the UFO community or to an individual researcher and be totally, say anything they want free of judgment. And that's I think is a key, because it's these strange things, it's these absurd things that I think really do hold the answer. There are some people that, they come up, they'll tell me a story and it seems so amazing, and then they throw in this other thing, and it does sound ridiculous when they do, but it's sincere and it happened. And if they're not telling us, if they're not giving us the full story, then we're losing a ton of data.
Absolutely.
And that's what we need to.
So important.
That's what we need to impart on people, is that if you're going to research and investigate, then you have to take it all in and free of judgment. And realize that. Yeah, and most people are telling the truth. I think we got into that before about, I had said, most people know what a plane is and that. And yes, sometimes people will mistake mundane things. They're describing it as a spaceship. It's not really a spaceship. Maybe it's a night flying kite or whatever. That then the onus is on the investigator to go out and try and find a mundane explanation. That is important. But at the same time, realize that most people are comfortable with what they're seeing and what they're describing, and they're describing to you truly what they have seen or what they feel they have seen. So it's important to be respectful with the experience, because they're the tangible thing. It's the witnesses who are the experts, in my opinion, not the government or something else, or like we had talked, maybe the CIA or whatever knows something. But we don't know what they know, and if it's any more valid than the person who's, actually had the experience. I think they are the expert.
Yes.
So it's important to take everything in from them.
Yes, and I think that it's really important to understand that, even though, we rationalize things and we say because there are recurrent sightings in a densely populated area, or it's in the flight corridor for an international airport, that it's not happening. And I saw that a ton in MUFON when I was investigating some of the anomalous light phenomena. I mean, there were so many people that were willing to shut it down. Well, those are airplane lights. Well, the area is too populated. And that really, when you stepped back and you looked at the witness testimony for decades, there was something there. And so for us to rationalize things and say, well, those are airplanes, it doesn't work like that. This is, like you said, one step, ahead of us. So why wouldn't it mimic an aircraft? I don't know. We just need to be...
Exactly. It's lazy investigating. It's absolute laziness. It's people who just, it's an orange light in the sky. Obviously, it's going to be a Chinese lantern. That's it. Bye-bye. It's over. It's laziness. And that's my excuse from an investigative standpoint, that yes, people can make mistakes of lights in the sky. But at the same point, there have been UFO experiences that are multi-witness, that seem to have like a good solid base in some credibility. And they do happen in areas that are highly populated. And I think that we discussed that. Did we discuss that on the air? Did we discuss that?
It was during the break.
Yep. Okay, where I had mentioned a case in Montreal that happened in 1990, which, by the way, worldwide there was a UFO waves in Russia and then in Belgium, the famous UFO wave there. Well, in 1990 here in Montreal, there was a famous case of a very large UFO. It covered pretty much the entire top of a hotel where there were 60 people on the upper floor and they were attending a party. All of these people saw this UFO. This is 60 people. There were some people as well that were on the sidewalk below of the hotel, and this is downtown Montreal, a major city, and they saw it too. Yet people that were in the building across and other people on the street did not see this. Now, technically, we should have had 100,000 people or more seeing this giant UFO, looked like a spaceship hovering over the hotel, but yet, for the most part, it was 60 people. So why is that? And what does that tell us about the nature of the phenomena itself? That not everybody saw it. I don't think it is as simple and clear-cut as people would like it to be. And certainly, if you can have that many people in a downtown of a major city seeing something and others not, then why wouldn't you have occasionally, something strange happening in a flight path or near an airport or over a busy, we have a lot of UFOs here that have been reported over the years over the lake. These predate aircraft, and yet they still continue today. And we're one of the most heavily air trafficked spaces in North America. And
isn't that? And this, I think this is so... It's just so mind-blowing. So I think it's important to keep an open mind and to try to step back and not use your human brain to try to rationalize what's taking place with another intelligence. And I am so grateful for you for rolling with me in the show tonight. That was a trip.
It was fun.
It was fun.
Like I said, it reinforces my own opinion that there's a cosmic trickster and this is all some grand joke it's playing. I don't know.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, I think I might be done with the trickster tonight, but tell us give the audience an idea of where we can find you. What are you doing next? Tell us about that.
Well, since writing the essay, I'm sort of expanding ideas on the essay. I am working on potentially developing new sort of models that I hope to use UFO cases to sort of examine more from a sociological point of view, and seeing if that can maybe provide us with some better questions. Again, I'm not out to answer anything at this point beyond maybe sparking better questions. As well, I'm doing some experiments that are running currently that I can't really get into too much because they are current projects. And those will eventually probably culminate in a book that is sort of loosely titled UFO Synchronicity and Magic. So,
and that will be wonderful, everyone. And I will keep everybody posted. And you can go to SusanSt.Clair.com to check out more. And I thank you so much for being here. I'm going to have to call you this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. And thank you so much.
Oh, I love it. Thank you guys. Have
pleasure.
a wonderful weekend and good luck with the eclipse. Keep me posted. I'm Erica Lukes. This is UFO Classified, and we will catch you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.